Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a trainer ranking up in the Master League with an extremely unexpected Pokemon, Shadow Salemence. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, XXD Yveltal, so many thanks for the battle submission. Shadow Salemence has a great fast move in Dragon Tail, but it only has nuke charge moves. This means its pacing is extremely slow, and that can leave it as a liability in a lot of matches. However, this trainer takes on the challenge and is still able to hit veteran rank with Shadow Salemence. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. We see a terrible lead in the first match, leading Shadow Mewtwo into Metagross, and unfortunately the Shadow Mewtwo is not on the double legacy moves. And this is the Shadow Shiny as well, so that's a massive flex. The bait of a potential Shadow Ball is enough to force a shield from the opponent. The safe switch into Dialga. Dialga will get hit with an Earthquake, but Earthquake is not what it once was. Dialga able to withstand that damage. Opponent is going to be firing off the Meteor Mash. Dialga committing the shield, wanting to get the Draco Meteor, and does get there. The opponent unable to get a farm down. Draco Meteor is going to connect. Metagross able to survive on 1 HP. In comes the Mewtwo just to get an energy advantage. In comes Togekiss. Mewtwo farming a very nice charge attack timing, firing off the Psystrike. Shadow Psystrike will do massive damage. Mewtwo able to survive the charm and make the last second Shadow Ice Beam. Ice Beam into the Togekiss is going to pick up the KO. In the back, it's Kyogre, and in comes Shadow Salemence. Shadow Salemence up a shield. This is right where it needs to be. Kyogre, Surf, does get shielded. Salemence, oh no, going for the bad manners Fire Blast into Kyogre. Say it ain't so. Kyogre gets Fire Blasted, and that's a good game. Moving to the next match, leading Shadow Mewtwo versus Zygarde. Now this is a matchup where having Ice Beam is absolutely amazing, as Shadow Ice Beam will deal massive damage to Zygarde, and we see a catch of the Crunch onto Dialga. Very nicely done. The Crunch will lower the defense. In comes Xerneas. Xerneas going to be firing off energy. We're going to see a no shield by the Dialga as Xerneas goes for the close combat and picks up the KO. Back in comes the Mewtwo. Mewtwo going for the Psystrike before the Xerneas is able to make its next charge attack. They're debuffed, so they are going to get knocked out here. In the back, it's another Kyogre, and this is incredibly good. Mewtwo firing off the Shadow Psystrike. This will be grabbing a shield from the opponent. The question is, not going to risk trying to make it to another Psystrike. I was going to say the question is, can they make it to the Psystrike, but not going to risk it. Just sending in the Salemence. Salemence shielding up the Surf. Salemence continuing to farm. Opponent firing off another charge attack. Salemence is just going to go for the double shield and a full farm down. It looks like the Salemence second move might change here, now on Hydro Pump. Going for the bad manners Hydro Pump into the Zygarde. Oh no, the Hydro Pump picks up the KO. This battler is an absolute menace with the BM nuke moves. Oh my goodness. Next match, Shadow Mewtwo versus Dialga. Mewtwo gonna farm up and just go for the Psystrike. Honestly, I don't even really feel like I can call this a bait in this matchup, because the Shadow Mewtwo can actually do some very nice damage with resistant Psystrike. The Psystrike plus the Psycho Cuts, well, two Psystrikes come very close to knocking out. Mewtwo firing off the Psystrike, putting pressure on the shield from the opponent. The opponent doesn't shield. We see a switch into Dialga and getting the snipe. Opponent now going to send in Landorus, and this is a bit of a complicating factor, as Landorus can potentially shield up the move from Dialga and go for a one shield farm down, which would be very rough, having to deal with Landorus and all this energy. Firing off the Iron Head, opponent actually lets it go, and now they're forced to throw energy because they're too low. I'm very surprised by the no shield from the opponent. The Sandseer is going to pick up the KO. In comes the Salemence. In the back, it's Ho-Oh. And unfortunately, Salemence is never making 3 moves in this game. So Salemence is going to have to rely on trying to farm down. And to do so, a catch is needed. Salemence farming up. They get to the move. And there's the catch onto the Mewtwo. Let's go. Catching the Brave Bird. Their defense now severely debuffed. They get absolutely shredded by the Dragon Tails. Opponent gets the 2 shield flex, but they lose the game to do so. Good lead in the next match, Shadow Mewtwo versus Landorus. Shadow Mewtwo does quite well into this matchup because Landorus and Mewtwo have identical pacing, but Mewtwo of course will win charge attack priority. They shield, so Yveltal is going to match shields as well. Could potentially go for the Psystrike, but instead choosing to let the Sandseer land and just go for Overfarm. Sandsear will connect. Going to overfarm slightly past the Ice Beam. This is debuffed. A Psy Strike I don't think would quite KO, but an Ice Beam definitely will. There's probably going to be a Dragon sent in here to get a farm down. Probably going to be Dialga, and there is Dialga. Dialga gets the farm down. This is a problem, but the opponent switches out of a Dialga mirror where they have an energy head start. That's a pretty big misplay by the opponent. They could have stayed in that matchup and had a Dialga mirror match where they're up energy, which is just a guaranteed favorable position. But instead, they switch into Mewtwo, which is not a winning matchup versus Dialga. Dialga banks the Draco Meteor. In comes Shadow Salemence. Shadow Salemence potentially seeing a win con and a way out of this matchup because the opponent didn't stay into the Dialga mirror. Salemence gets the farm down. If Salemence can force the shield with the Outrage, then there's a Draco Meteor ready and waiting to go. Outrage is going to connect. Opponent is going to get the farm down, but here's the thing. Dialga Origin will always lose charge attack priority to the standard Dialga. So Dialga goes for the Draco Meteor, knocks out the opponent, and the opponent had a very favorable endgame position, but misplays end the game in a loss for them. Shadow Mewtwo versus Kyogre. One Psy Strike will not KO, but it does a massive amount of damage. We're going to see the Psy Strike land and a switch into Dialga. Opponent going to send in a Snarl Zacian. No one move is going to be able to knock out here, which is quite nice for the Dialga. Dialga will fire off the Iron Head. Iron Head is going to be shielded up by the opponent. They can go for close combat, but again, it will not be enough to KO. They go for the close combat. That's not going to cut it. Opponent tries for a farm down and then decides to throw a move, but they end up playing to charge attack priority. So the opponent has now given up both shields. They're going to be 4 stages debuffed. And they have, unfortunately for them, misplayed this Zacian Dialga matchup pretty severely. And now, Yveltal just gonna let this go. He's saving all shields for Salemence, but the opponent switches out. Oh no, and that is unfortunately going to be a 2-shield loss right here, as Dialga will be hit with the Outrage. Outrage picks up the KO, but you can just farm down with the Zacian. Had the Zacian stayed in there, that was looking kind of promising, but the clock was up. Opponent takes advantage of that, switches out the Zacian, and the Dragon Breath from that Dialga, just far too much for Shadow Salemence to handle. Familiar lead in the next match, the Shadow Mewtwo versus the Landorus. Landorus just going to spam out the Sandsear as soon as they get there. Mewtwo able to grab the shield back. Opponent is going to catch a resisted and debuff Psy Strike onto their own Mewtwo. Could potentially try for a catch in exchange. Tries for it, it's unsuccessful. The opponent farms up a massive amount of energy, and Dialga is not respecting the potential Focus Blast, and there it is! Oh no! And the Mewtwo makes a Psy Strike as well, and this is in a very unfortunate spot. The Dialga not respecting the Focus Blast, and a rare Mewtwo that actually has the Focus Blast. In the back, it's Tapu Bulu, and this, unless this Fire Blast lands, this game's over. Come on, please. Fire Blast from the Salemence does get respected. The Tapu Bulu is unfortunately aware of the Fire Blast. They're going to be able to Nature's Madness there. And this next Grass Knot, I mean, this is just going to knock out. They actually go for a Nature's Madness. A Nature's Madness does less damage, so they should have gone for a Grass Knot there, because this potentially opens the door for a win con here. As we're going to see, oh my goodness, Mewtwo makes the Psy Strike. Is it enough? It is. The opponent not going for the Grass Knot cost them the game. That game looked absolutely over, but the misplay by the opponent ends up costing them massively. In the next match, what do you know? It's another Landorus lead. Landorus absolutely everywhere in the Master League. Shadow Mewtwo going to be matching shields, and then are we going to see an overfarm or just a Psy Strike? Opponent tries for a catch on a Mewtwo. This time the catch is unsuccessful. In comes Dialga. The opponent has farmed up past the Focus Blast. You just got Focus Blasted. And we do see the shield learning from the misplay of the last game, saying, you know what, you are absolutely not Focus Blasting me a second time. Opponent doesn't commit to the Focus Blast there, which is quite nice, because then Dialga just does not have to respect it. They do make another Psy Strike. This should not KO because this is only a normal Mewtwo, not the Shadow. So Dialga leaves with 100 energy, but it's so low on HP. So this is going to be close. Can both moves get off here? No, they cannot. The Landorus has the move banked, winning charge attack priority. In the back, it's Dialga, and this is going to be a tough endgame. Shadow Mewtwo firing off the Ice Beam. Ice Beam will connect. In comes Shadow Salemence. Shadow Salemence looking for the farm down. Opponent forced to throw energy, and now can Mewtwo commit to a Psycho Cut farm down? If they can, this is looking pretty good here. Mewtwo gets the farm down. The Landorus threw its energy, so it doesn't have any energy. And the Mewtwo, I believe, is very close to the back-to-back moves here. This is going to be a very tense end game. The Mewtwo winning charge attack priority there. The Shadow Mewtwo, time and time again, putting the team on its back, and it takes the win. Shadow Mewtwo versus Tapu Bulu. Incredibly good lead for the Mewtwo. Opponent safe switches into Landorus. And Landorus not going to be in a great spot here. Mewtwo fires off the Side Strike right away. So that way the Landorus, since the switch takes a turn, only gets a half sneak instead of a full one. So they don't end up sneaking through a Mud Shot. And now the Mewtwo can always overfarm by one, and it'll still be right when the opponent makes the move. So very nice mechanical awareness by this player. These battles were submitted a couple weeks back. In the meantime, this trainer has since gone on to hit Legend, but I do like to hold on to some submissions every season because I do know that the Catch Cup week is always going to be a bit of a tougher week as far as content goes. So at the very least, we still get to see some Shadow Salamence goodness at a time when unfortunately the Master League is not available. Shadow Salamence is going to get the farm down. Salamence has a lot of energy. In comes the Tapu Bulu. And here is the Fire Blast. Let's go. The moment we've been waiting for. Cooking the plant. In the back, it's Nihilego. Nihilego going to be firing off this Rock Slide. Rock Slide is going to be able to pick up the KO. But Nihilego completely walled by Dialga in the back. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Shadow Mewtwo finding every Landorus lead in existence. Oh my goodness. The leads are just non-stop. Mewtwo going for the Side Strike, grabbing the shield. Opponent returning fire with the Sandsear Storm, and Mewtwo going to match shields. A lot of Landorus have been trying to catch on the second Side Strike, so will we see an overfarm here? Mewtwo goes for the overfarm, but the opponent does not go for the catch. Instead, they stay in and go for the Sandsear. Opponent sends in Lugia. Lugia will be met with the double debuffed Ice Beam, which still does an okay amount of damage, and in comes Dialga. Honestly, saving that energy may have been the slightly more efficient play, just because that energy would have been a lot more useful when it's not double debuffed. The Lugia can go for the Aeroblast, but Dialga does not care about Aeroblast, but it does care about an Aeroblast boost. That is quite unfortunate. Dialga should be able to make an Iron Head here if the opponent shields, so the opponent realizes that, and they're going to no shield. They send in Ho-Oh. Dialga only able to make the Iron Head. Opponent is counting, so they know that they don't have to shield. Nice energy awareness there by the opponent. In comes the Shadow Salamence. Salamence, this can only be a Brave Bird, so we will see the shield from Salamence. And then the opponent can look to switch into Landorus, and they do. Landorus will be met with the Outrage. Outrage is going to command a shield, and now we're going to see a switch into the Mewtwo. Did Mewtwo successfully catch the Stone Edge? It did! The opponent goes for an undercharge, however. They're trying to make the Stone Edge versus the Salamence. They do not get there, and Shadow Salamence, with the help of a very nice catch, is going to be able to take this win as Outrage knocks Ho-Oh out of the sky, and that's game over. Shadow Mewtwo versus Zacian. At the very least, the Landos have gone away. Landorus has left the building. This is going to be a wild charge from the Zacian on 6, and then they should switch out. They send in Dialga, and Mewtwo more than happy to just fire off the Side Strikes. Shadow Side Strike. I mean, Side Strike by itself is just an incredibly busted move, and then you add the Shadow bonus onto it, and Mewtwo's attack stat, and this thing is absolutely crazy. Dialga with an immediate no shield, understanding that the opponent was slightly short of the energy required for a Draco Meteor, going to overfarm as much as possible, and I believe that is charge attack priority tie right here. The Iron Head connects and picks up the KO. The opponent, if they really want to, they can get a little bit of a nice farm down here. So they are going to, oh, I was going to say with the Zacian, but there's the Landorus. The Landorus is apparently inescapable. In comes the Mewtwo. Mewtwo going for the Side Strike, winning charge attack priority as the opponent makes it to the Sandsear Storm. Side Strike will be shielded. Sandsear, I mean, this will come very close to knocking out. The Sandsear Storm is going to connect Mewtwo, surviving on 1 HP, but this could potentially set up a Fire Blast win con. And we're going to see a no-shield by the Salemence, as this is only a Sandsear Storm. The Sandsear Storm, however, is going to be debuffing the attack of the Salemence, which makes the Fire Blast do less damage. But here we go. Fire Blast into the Zacian. Fire Blast, even when debuffed, massive damage. Salemence gets the Dragon Tail through. So if Salemence shields, then this will be enough to KO. But instead, Salemence lets it go. The opponent throws their move, and this is going to mean the Psycho Cut KOs, and the Psy Strike is available. Oh my goodness. I thought for sure the play was shielding the Salemence, but they say no. Instead, letting the Salemence go, the opponent not committing to the fast move there, and it cost them in a massive way. All in all, these were some very entertaining battles, and I loved getting to see Fire Blast after Fire Blast connect. Shadow Salemence is a Pokemon that I would love a move update for. I know in the main series, I believe it can learn Fly, and that would be an incredibly cool addition. It wouldn't make Salemence overpowered or anything like that, but it would just help it quite a bit with its current pacing issue. Whereas now it's a Pokemon that can output quite a bit of fast move pressure. It has amazing nuke moves with your choice of Outrage, Fire Blast, or even Hydro Pump. But the lack of the bait move really holds it back, where we were able to see a lot of the wins in these battles where the battler almost being able to win in spite of the many limitations of Salemence. So it's a move that I'm really hoping that in this next season, we get to see the addition of something like Fly or Dragon Claw to Salemence, because it could really elevate Salemence to a Pokemon that you could actually play and get some wins with, instead of having to make incredible catches to try and dodge around the fact that this Pokemon is incredibly slow to get to just about any charge move. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you hadn't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.